It's Friday, July 24th, 2026, the wonderful world of women's athletics, them before us, and Ask or Tell Me Anything next on the AM Update. Well, the wonderful world of women's athletics, love the alliteration there, lit up this week on several different fronts. And yes, we're leading the Friday Ask or Tell Me Anything with this. Sophie Cunningham talked about her yesterday. She is the teammate of WNBA superstar Caitlin Clark. And she made waves this week in an interview with ESPN saying, yeah, I don't have any hate in my heart, but dudes should not be competing on female athletic teams. They just shouldn't be. It's common sense. I'm here to speak truth in love. That's what I believe. Well, a bunch of ravenous WNBA reporters cornered Sophie Cunningham yesterday to follow up on that interview with ESPN, and Sophie's not backing down.
On that same vein, in that story with ESPN, you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children. And that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that.
Yeah. Do you see your advocacy on that, like taking any form going forward?
You know, I don't know. I'm not a very political person, but I do have beliefs. I have morals, and I'll always stand on those and be true to who I am. And I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that.
Great job, Sophie Cunningham. Wonderful. You said what you said to ESPN. To ESPN, being a player, a member of the People's Republic of the WNBA, you said what you said, you got cornered by a few reporters, and you just said, yeah, the answer is no, and I'm going to say it with a smile. I'm pretty attractive and cute, and here's a smile, and no, get out of here with that BS. Love it. Absolutely love it. I saw a take the other day that I tend to agree with as well, saying that, you know what, if this is the hill that she's going to die on or live on, hopefully, if this is the hill that she's going to live on, given that she's pretty popular within the WNBA, I hope she stays far away from the apparatus of Republican politics. Because Lord knows, Caitlin Clark, she's just trying to do the exceptionalism thing in the WNBA. I don't think it's working. But at least somebody is going to use their platform from within the WNBA to spread the message of sanity. And no, this is not a glass half empty type of opportunity here where you could say, oh, imagine telling yourself 15 years ago, the WNBA, it would be breaking news for a member of the WNBA to come out and oppose transgenderism. No, this is a glass half full thing when it comes to Sophie Cunningham and speaking up and standing against the bullies. Speaking of bullies, Megan Rapinoe, U.S. women's national team soccer star, went on The View yesterday to talk about this very issue. You will not believe what she had to say.
It's just like pull back a little. At first it was like, well, nobody likes women's sports and nobody wants to watch it. Or there was, abuse happening and nobody seemed to care. Now all of a sudden we're going to use a vulnerable group of people in the trans community to be like, oh, well, we're just protecting women's sports and we care so much about it. When the Heritage Foundation is now going to go after Title IX. So is it about reproductive rights or is it about just women's rights in general? We're seeing the rollback of Roe v. Wade. Marriage equality, I feel like, is getting put back on the table. That was settled law. And so all of these things, like, yes, they're going after trans people in sports, and they're using this as a wedge issue because we love sports and, we don't want our little girls to be unsafe in sports. And it's like, unsafe from who? But okay. Yeah. But now we're using this as like an overarching thing when really what we're attacking women. We're saying, if you look like this as a woman, you can play.
Megan Rapinoe, the singularity of absolute vapidity, which is a word that I just made up. I mean, she is annoying as all get out. Not in a, oh, wow, she makes some really good points way. No, there's nothing going on up there. There's really not. She's saying that dudes invading women's sports, which she championed. And she said, hey, I was championing this before anybody else was. She says dudes invading the very sport that she championed is an attack on women. Yikes. Check out this. Last item, the wonderful world of women's sports. Nancy Armour of USA Today wrote this paragraph in relation to the aforementioned Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. Quote, "It shouldn't need reminding. This country has an awful history of black people being harmed, even killed, in the name of defending white women. The WNBA's All-Star Game this weekend is in Chicago, Emmett Till's hometown, and a local art gallery is currently hosting an exhibit imagining his life if he hadn't been lynched. While it's incumbent on the WNBA to do more to protect its players, there also should be an expectation on Clark to recognize the wider consequences of her action." Nancy Armour, USA Today, attributing Caitlin Clark, mentioning her in the same sentence as the killing of Emmett Till, and saying that she should recognize the wider consequences of her actions. Is it just me, but between this kind of outcrop of stories and the reaction to Christopher Nolan's Odyssey last weekend, kind of seems like the woke spirit of the age is kind of trying to flex again like it's the summer of 2020. We'll see if they get away with it. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in our second of the Friday 5-pack, gave an update on Iran.
Iran is begging us, okay, both directly and indirectly. Let's do a deal. Let's talk. Iran is begging every day. The problem with Iran is every time they make a deal, the people that are in charge there, they either break it or they want to change it. So it looks like they're not ready to make a deal. So they're going to continue to pay a price. And every night the price gets higher and higher and higher. And that's what's happening now. And until maybe in a few days, they'll be ready to make a deal once they realize that this is not a winning proposition for them. And that's what the president is outlining. The idea that this is going to continue, it's not going to continue this way. The price will continue to get higher every single night until they come to their senses. Right now, apparently they haven't come to their senses. And so the president doesn't see a lot of utility in responding to their overtures at this point, because frankly, Iran is clearly not ready to make a deal, at least not one they're willing to live by.
Secretary of State Rubio also adding that Iran involved the Houthis in Yemen in this conflict, and that we will see what happens there. Let's go back to this. Melissa Chaudhry, a Democratic congressional candidate in Washington's 9th District, has acknowledged she does not publicly support, quote-unquote, or promote, quote-unquote, LGBTQ rights on her campaign website because she doesn't want to alienate Muslim voters. Meanwhile, in Minnesota, gubernatorial candidate for the Republicans, Mike Lindell, wants to provide a pathway for legal citizenship in the country.
You now have all the money that you gain. It's in the billions, not millions. In the billions you gain from them paying taxes. Now, these employers, okay, you take that money and you use it to legalize people. You bring it to, because right now a lot of the people, they can't afford $5,000 to $15,000 to go through the system to be legalized. Right. I went down to Florida and checked it all out and people that are coming in legally.
Well, I know that farmers would be thrilled with something like this because
they all would be.
So Mike Lindell says his program, what he's talking about there is something he mentioned in a couple of, I believe, interviews or appearances this week, saying that he wants to put for sale tags on visas in order to raise revenue for the country, because just getting rid of tens of millions of illegal aliens or visa overstays would have such a terrible impact on the economy. Mike Lindell. No. This is a story out of Lima, Ohio, courtesy of 13 ABC, WTVG TV. Listen to this story, the uproar over some billboards that have gone up in town.
Billboard messages are getting pushed back in Lima.
It just makes me sad that this country has come to this.
This billboard on Elida Road near East Road shows the message in rainbow colors from the organization Them Before Us and says no child has two moms, no child has two dads.
And what bothers me about it is a child that sees this sign and either asks their parent and gets either the hate-filled version or they have to be explained to why people feel this way. And children have enough issues that they have to deal with.
Given a candidate for Ohio House District 78 and a co-founder of the Lima Pride Alliance, says he believes the message targets the LGBTQ community.
Personally, I think it's just to stir up hatred and stir up debate since we're getting close to, election time.
Them Before Us appears to be based out of Seattle and has been running similar billboards in other cities, including here in Northwest Ohio. In a Substack post, the group pushes back on criticism, writing in part that a mother and a father are a fact, not a feeling. And, quote, we do not get to rewrite words tied to a biological reality humanity has acknowledged for centuries because some adults want family to mean something new. Gibbons says LGBTQ plus families have also been stepping up to adopt, including children who are harder to place, and he has a message for the group behind the billboard.
Please stop.
WTVG-TV with that story out of Lima, Ohio. The group Them Before Us, founded by Katie Faust, a woman who was actually raised, I believe, by a homosexual couple, and now has devoted her life to standing up for kids like she was. Kids that were told it's okay to have a mommy or a daddy and a daddy. And now this town of Lima, Ohio, up in arms over a basic reality that human civilization is built on. The family is one man, one woman, and the children that follow. No other way. But even that most basic of fact in this day and age is offensive. So good job to Katie Faust and Them Before Us on that billboard campaign in Ohio. When we come back, it's going to be your turn to ask or tell me anything. Next, stay tuned. Final segment on this week on the AM Update. This is production number 9 for me in 2 days' time. For my day job, we have some time off coming up, which is kind of time off, but we have to tape ahead. So yesterday, I produced, edited 4 shows in one day. 4 shows in one day. On one side project on Wednesday, we did 2 shows and the AM update. And now on Thursday, which is Thursday night, which I'm recording this, a little spoiler alert there. I don't stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning doing this. I'm doing this. This is the 9th of 9 different productions in 2 days. I'm hanging on by a very thin thread. Love to do what I get to do, however. Ask or Tell Me Anything first priority goes to our Patreon supporters at the $10 a month level over on patreon.com/theamupdate. We'll go back to another civilian who has this interesting story from CNN. Headline, an OpenAI test model escaped and broke into a real company's servers. OpenAI says some of its experimental AI models left a test environment with no human direction and hacked their way onto a different company's real production systems while trying to cheat on a cybersecurity test. It's one of the first publicly disclosed examples of an AI system autonomously breaching its testing environment and reaching a real external system. The agentic attacker scenario the AI and cybersecurity industry has been warning will happen. It's like an engineered virus escaping a biocontainment lab and turning up inside a neighboring facility's systems. So that's sent to our Patreon supporter, from our Patreon supporter, another civilian. I did see this story earlier this week. I saw similar stories earlier this year as well. A couple of things that kind of stand out to me. Number one, I do think there is real merit to being somewhat concerned about these stories. I would like to experiment with agentic AI eventually, maybe once I get a new computer way down the line, and the old one I need to find something to do with. But that's what we're talking about. Agentic AI, where you give an AI control over a computer. Instead of you just chatting into a dialogue box like a chat bot, you're kind of doing that, but it's also giving the AI a lot more control and a lot more power over a computer. And so it sounds like one of these agentic AI agents broke out of containment and infested another system. So I do think there is merit. I think there's merit to being concerned about that. Number two, I'd caution as well, for all of the founders of AI, for all of the tech bro founders of these big AI companies, saying how concerned they are, how earth-shattering this technology could be. And I understand why they say that. I don't agree with it at all anymore. I was kind of maybe coming around to it earlier this year, but so far I don't quite agree with it. I'm open to changing my mind. I don't think it's going to be nearly as earth-shaking as they say. These types of stories, it sounds like bad PR, but really what we're talking about here is look at the agent, look at the AI we made that was so powerful. It broke containment by itself and hacked another system by itself. So I'd be a little bit careful about believing these stories whole cloth because it might be a little bit of a PR spin. Now back to the other possibility, merit to be concerned about agentic AI breaking free. In kind of a perverse roundabout way, if you're somebody who thinks that social media, that the digital world that we're living in, yes, it's enabled a lot of efficiency. Yes, it's enabled the deluge of information, the wealth of information that we enjoy every single day. But if you're somebody who, despite that, believes that especially social media has been a net negative for society, don't you kind of think on some level, in a perverse way, AI might be deliverance from that? Because if an AI can hack other systems, there's the possibility out there that it could just infect everything that's digital. Everything that with a Wi-Fi chip in it. Again, that's just theoretical, just kind of spitballing there. Let's go to this one from Nicole, another Patreon subscriber at the $10 a month level at patreon.com/TheRealAMUpdate. I'm sorry, the AM update. And the AM update, not the real AM update. Just the AM update at patreon.com. Nicole writes, maybe it's poor timing considering the previous story we just talked about, but how would you recommend learning about AI? I homeschool and I don't want to just bury my head in the sand. I'd like to have a basic working knowledge so I can come alongside my high school daughter with this technology before she heads to college and or the job market. Thank you. That's a great question, and I don't have a great answer for you. I think at that level, in terms of high school and college, I would be very wary about encouraging AI use amongst students. I think there is all the value, and I made a comment a couple of weeks ago on one of these AI stories. It was sarcastic, and I hope it came across. You know, if we have AI to write all of our papers, AI to do all of our research, what do we need to do, education for? We still need those neural pathways to expand in our brains. And I'll give you an example of this. I was trying to build something, code a tool at work for a very specific, very bespoke purpose during my day job. And I told Claude what I wanted to build. And I told Claude the tools that I was working with, kind of gave it context of the environment in which I was working. And Claude said, now I can't really do that. So here's your two options. Either you change the way that you're doing what you're doing already, or, you just do it the way that you don't want to do it already. Those are kind of the two options. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this. We're going to do this project completely automated. I don't want to have to do anything except for maybe push one button. Maybe push one button. And Claude didn't want to do that. So instead, I used my creativity and my more in-depth knowledge of what I'm already working with to propose a third option. And you know what Claude said? Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that. You have to form those neural pathways, and there's only one way to do that, and it's by learning as much as you possibly can, figuring things out on your own as much as you possibly can, and then following through. Once you're certain that you have the creativity locked in, once you're certain that you're able to, or maybe your student is able to use AI as a tool instead of AI using the student, or the student using it as a crutch or wheelchair for that matter. If you're sure you've got a son or daughter who is really ambitious and can see AI, some of these good AI platforms, as a tool to supercharge their productivity, maybe then I'd consider it, but I'd be very wary of it at that level. So for things like data management, for things like shoring up writing, Claude has a reputation, and without context of who you are, what you're doing, it very much skews to the left. But in threads that I'm working on Claude, where it knows who I am, knows what I'm trying to accomplish, already knows my perspective, it doesn't push back on me at all. It doesn't. It just does what I tell it to do. Hey, can you slick up this writing a little bit, tighten this writing a little bit, or provide suggestions to do so, and then I can be the judge of whether or not I want to implement them. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. That's what I'm talking about. As a way to supercharge your abilities and your productivity, not replace them. So, the best way to learn about AI, if you wanted to know about the nuts and bolts, what is it? What are LLMs, large language models, I think is what they're called. That's kind of the chat bots overall we're talking about. As weird as it may sound, I don't know. Nicole, I might get on the free version of Claude and just tell Claude I'm skeptical about this. Don't really want my students to use AI as a crutch, but how does this work? What's the best perspective I can give on it? I think the number one piece of advice that I could, and Claude will tell you, and you can take that or don't take it. So my number one piece of advice, it's a tool, and if you're confident whoever you're recommending it to will use it as a tool, then I recommend it. Number two, the absolute worst use of any AI, whether it's Grok, which is more right-leaning, or Claude, which is more left-leaning, the worst use for any AI, and I will maintain this until I'm proven otherwise, is research. Now, cursory research, kind of, hey, am I barking up the right tree here? You can use Google for that too. But research and doing your thinking for you, those are still skills that you need to learn on your own. So, good question. I appreciate it. Oh, let's go to this. Real AM update. Ask or tell me anything. Let's get to your responses. James Moon got in late last week, but I wanted to include this. He was here about a month ago with this. I've been praying about starting an outreach ministry for people dealing with suicidal ideation, suicide attempts, or those currently in psychiatric care on a 5150 hold. Years ago, I attempted to take my own life, but God intervened and ultimately used that experience to draw me back to Him. Because of that, I've been considering creating a Bible that would include color-coded, highlighted passages on God's love, hope, peace, purpose, suffering, and salvation, along with a brief testimony and a 7-day reading plan for people in crisis. And he wanted to know back then, have you ever heard of somebody doing something like this? And I said, no. And I said, absolutely, James, you need to do this. James said, this week, I've officially moved forward with the idea, and after talking with my church, we've begun putting the pieces together to start distributing the Bibles. I'm going to be faithful with what God has put on my heart and let Him do the rest. If you'd ever want to talk about my testimony, my story, and how this idea came about, I'd be more than happy to come on and share it. Well, I have DM'd James, and I love this idea. I love that he's following through. And I love the perspective. I'm going to be faithful with what God has put on my heart and let Him do the rest. I hope in the coming weeks, maybe you can hear James's story as well. Even more than just this simple little note and submission this morning, maybe his story will be encouraging to you as well. It may not be the issue of suicide, the issue of a spiritual oppression, depression, whatever you want to call it. Maybe it's something else in your life that you feel a calling for. James has conviction for this, and he's following through. Let's go to Mr. Mayhem 79. Says, Candace Owens has become the Fauci of Charlie Kirk's conspiracies. Just like Fauci during COVID, Crazy Candy is making contrary statements to the evidence and the data. Yep. Unfortunately. Alex Pfeiffer says, a good friend of mine recommended for me and my family to watch Time Changer 2002. It's free on YouTube, by the way. Watched it with the family last night, and it turned out to be pretty good. Not too cheesy and had a good plot. So much truth in it. Time Changer. Apparently this movie, free on YouTube. Time Changer 2002. Thank you for the recommendation, Alex. Country Squire says, in a discussion on suicidal empathy, Jordan Peterson said that this was Judas's sin when he criticized anointing Jesus' feet with perfume, saying, sell it and feed the poor. John 12:6 tells us that Judas didn't care for the poor, but was a thief and wanted the money. Sounds familiar? Yeah. Jordan Peterson, I don't know what's going on with Jordan Peterson. He's had some really bad health issues. I'm going to cut him some slack on that. But I'm not really sure why he says suicidal empathy is his sin. When, as you pointed out, John 12 kind of tells a different story. This is kind of the limitation of X as a platform as well, because Jordan Peterson wrote those words on X. Sounds like something better maybe explained if he has a perspective that's decent on this. Best to explain in like a podcast or auditory form. Let's go to Light the Dark CA. Is Charlie Kirk case more like COVID, where we will be able to have a rational public discussion about it in 5 years, or will it be more like JFK, where it will take decades? Man, I hate ending on a dour note. I don't think it's going to be quite like JFK, because we have a lot of angles in HD. Unfortunately, we have a lot more people who are willing, more than willing, to give the time of day to just bat crap crazy stuff than we did back in JFK's day. So it's not quite the same, but it is kind of the same at the end of the day. Different context, maybe same outcome. Like I said, hate to end it on a dour note. Have you seen Jimothy? Have you seen Jimothy? He is this squirrel, I believe in Washington State. He's got some sort of spinal... Heck, I just Googled Jimothy on Google, and a little truncated raccoon just ran across the screen. Jimothy has this genetic abnormality that causes him to just be a little truncated squirrel. Yeah, in Seattle. He has been everywhere. He's been going viral. You know how a squirrel is kind of long in the middle? This guy is just like a little ball. Just a ball. He's got long legs and a very short body. Got some sort of genetic abnormality. However, this week, did you see this as well? Authorities in Seattle believe Jimothy might not be the only one with the genetic deformity. See, one Jimothy is cute, a load of fun. Two Jimothys might mean that you have an unaddressed ecological disaster that could be a ticking time bomb. Because I'm guessing somewhere along the line, the Jimothy's moms, or mom, hopefully there's just one, got into some bad chemicals and got some genetic abnormalities going on there. You should look up Jimothy if you haven't so far. It's pretty funny. That's going to do it for this week on the AM Update. Thanks for hanging out with me. As always, wherever you listen, if you still are listening on iTunes or Spotify, give me a 5-star review if you would. Appreciate all of you for listening. Back at it again on Monday.